And after that, I worked. I did an internship last year with Congressman Bob Onder. And after that, right at the tail end of my internship with Congressman Onder, I got into the data center issue. And I actually got into that data center issue because of Bill Eigel. He's always been against the data centers. And then I would say 3 or 4 months ago, I would say 4 months 4 months ago now, I got into the flock issue. And I was just like everyone else. I was like, what's a flock camera? Does it have to do with like bird cameras that the government is using for nefarious reasons? I had no idea. And so I got to know this guy named Ike Skelton.
Unknown caller.
He's the presiding commissioner of Camden County, and he's running for state senate. And I got to know him through the grassroots. I heard a lot of positive things about him, out there. And I saw him at some committee hearings, speaking about the Sacramento SEPA and live video of the Senate. And I liked him. I shook hands with him and talked to him a little bit. And I would say about a month or two ago, I interviewed him actually. And I delved into this flock camera issue and thing, and I delved into it, and I realized, wow, this is really concerning. This reminds me of the 2030 agenda that I learned about during COVID. They want these 15-minute cities. You'll own nothing. You'll just rent everything out, and you'll be happy. And I don't want that. I'm a young person. I'm 26 years old, and I don't want to see the 2030 agenda. I want to own property. I want to have children, and yeah, that's how I got into the flock issue.
Dang. Brandon, if you want to start off the questions tonight, feel free and fire away.
Yeah. So just tell us about the way St. Charles County operates their flock cameras. Like,
Sure.
If you know much about the way it's funded, and specifically I think it was 1776 was the number of the county bill you were working on to try to get it stopped in St. Charles. So if you just want to delve into all of the what goes into a St. Charles County flock camera system, and then what your measure is to oppose that.
Sure. So earlier in May, so I was wanting to speak out on this issue. Actually, I wanted to go to a council meeting. I actually wanted to speak, and I had some remarks prepared, what I would want to say. And I saw an article on a local news station that they were considering license plate readers. They were considering a bill that would, it was some sort of data sharing thing. I have no idea if it had 100% to do with flock cameras, but I think it did. And so I went to the meeting at the end of May there, and I spoke against the flock cameras. And I gave my speech, and what ended up happening was I shared my video the next morning, and that it just went viral. It got 50,000 views. And so when it was just going viral, people were just raving about it, like, great job, young man, and all that. I didn't want to be as much about myself because I'm a humble guy. I'm a Christian. I don't want all the focus to be on myself. And so I thought, how can I divert this in a direction to where this can actually be productive instead of just like complaining on the internet? And so I remember I knew a friend in the grassroots, and he was like, one time I actually drafted a resolution and gave it to a state representative, and he actually used that. And so I drafted up this resolution. And I did some research, like how they would go about banning the flock cameras in St. Charles County if they were to. So I put together this resolution and all the right wording and everything. And so I started collecting signatures and supported that online. And I decided, okay, I'm going to need some physical signatures. And so I put this resolution together that would prohibit flock cameras or anything substantially similar to it. And I label it 1776 because 1776 is the answer to 1984.
I like that a lot. And also to anybody that tunes in on this stream, I am so sorry. I hit go live, it counted down, and then it disconnected all channels.
I noticed
so
that.
When we started, you guys saw the countdown, and Brandon's like, now what'd you do, old man? For some reason it disconnected, and I reconnected. Okay. So Jake, for people who just don't, you don't have to take a really deep dive here, but for people that don't understand what the dangers behind flock cameras, or just what flock cameras really are, can you just give us as much info as you can on this? Because again, I've spoken to several people, and they get a glossed over look on their face. They have no idea what I'm talking about.
I know. I've struggled with that, approaching people on the street and explaining it to them. But basically, it's a license plate reader. It's an automated license plate reader, and what it does, my understanding is that it captures every vehicle driving by warrantlessly, and it puts that into a database and makes you trackable. So let's say you drive across a town and there's like 5 flock cameras. Every camera is going to capture you, and it creates like a mosaic of where you're going across town. It makes you trackable, and that fact alone is unconstitutional. Now here in St. Charles, so we have the county level government, and then we have local municipalities. Like we have St. Peter's, we have Wentzville and O'Fallon, St. Charles City, and we have all sorts of local municipalities, and they are pushing it really hard, especially in St. Peter's, and some of the homeowners associations are putting them up like at the front neighborhoods, and businesses are doing it as well. Sharing that data with the local police, and so St. Charles County, like the unincorporated parts, I was told there's like 29, and 22 of the flock cameras are in the parks because they're saying that they want to catch pedophiles, which I'm really not buying that, because a pedophile can just walk to a park or use someone else's vehicle or something. And then outside of the flock cameras, there are Genetec cameras, and those are basically identical in the way they function. They capture the vehicle and they put it in database, and then that information there is there for like 90 days, and then they flush it out. And what I'm being told is that they think, the government, they think it's safer the way they're doing it because they're in control, like they have safeguards or something. And I don't buy that either. I don't trust government.
No, and rightfully so. I guess because I kept hearing about them, but I never looked at a picture. And then I saw a Facebook page dedicated to fighting flock cameras. I saw a picture of one because every day I drive from Owensville to Jeff City to work. And when I cross the Gasconade River Bridge, I keep seeing this thing. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. And once you get that image in your head of that black pole with the solar panel, you don't miss it. And I've noticed ever since I first got into the flock issue, I've noticed them popping up everywhere around my house and area.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, it is really hard for me not to show it that it's number one every time I drive across that bridge now. Just to let them know whatever guy might be looking at that footage, like, why does the guy keep flipping me off? Like, I think he knows what we're up to, sir. So yeah, interesting. I had not heard of the other company. Everything's Flock. You hear about Flock, and what do you say, Genetec?
Yeah, Genetec. That's another brand they're using. It's pretty much identical.
Okay. Now, I guess the next question is, unless you have a question.
Well, I was just wanting to know if you had maybe like a digital copy of the actual resolution that you're pushing in the county. A lot of our viewers are nitty gritty for like particulars, I'd say. So do you have like something saved on your computer you could share?
I could send it to you. Can I text it to you?
Yeah.
Or email to you? Would that help?
Yeah, I'm gonna put my email in the private chat here.
Okay.
And then 1 second.
I'll email it to you.
Then we can share it on the screen so everybody else can see it watching. Yeah.
Because I also think it'd be helpful if anybody's living in a county in Missouri or even anywhere, and they want to, take one of these to their city council or their county council. I think it'd be nice to see some draft resolution. People can basically just copy and paste it and put one forward for them. So yeah, if you got my email in the private chat, there it is.
Let me send this to you.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Flock proposal.
And then John, if you've got any other questions for him for now.
Well, I was just going to say, because, we've been kind of talking a little bit about the data centers here in Missouri. And I know you're not supposed to assume, but I assume that sometimes the flock cameras and the data centers are going hand in hand, because
they do go hand in hand, because the flock algorithm is run by AI. Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, cool. That just makes me get all the warm and fuzzies when
it's what they want, though. It's what they want, though. It's the 2030 agenda. All these data centers, the AI and the flock cameras, that's what they want. They want an efficient tracking system where they can put us on a grid and they can see everything we're doing. So,
yeah, it is disturbing. And again, so before we pull up this this digital copy of your resolution, give me your take, because excuse me, there are an awful lot of so-called conservatives. Like we call him Tim Jim Jones on the show because he wants you to drink the Kool-Aid, and Heather Overstreet and some of these other folks are out there like, I don't know what your people's problem is with these data centers. Look, this one has a closed loop system, so it won't suck up all the water. But I'll tell you this, Jake, when they announced those two in New Florence, the Amazon and Google ones, and now okay, and trying to be like an ANCAP or a capitalist minded person, you're like, well, if they want to come in, they can come in. And I kind of like subscribe to that a little bit. But then when the governor says, I'm giving them 15 years of tax abatements, and on the other hand, we have an NGO working with the state tax commission forcing every assessor to pump everybody's assessment numbers up by 15%. Like, okay, so you're going to steal more from me because I have the ability to own a house.
They're saying, oh, it's going to reduce your property tax rates. Okay, how is it going to reduce your property tax rates and bring in more revenue if you're giving them like 100% abatement for like 15, 20 years? It makes no sense. It's inconsistent.
Right, and it's unconstitutional as heck because you don't, again, it's okay. I understand also the mindset that like, hey, if you can start a business and you can pay less taxes, you're like, you're sitting there thinking, why not? I get to pay less taxes than everybody else. But if the state government or even a local government passes something and says, oh yeah, you guys get a break and these people don't get a break, then automatically that should be thrown out the window. That should be an absolute no-go right off the bat. And we've seen it with agriculture. We're seeing it with data centers. We're seeing it with other things that they're just like, well, tough turkey. They're getting all the preferred treatment and you're just going to suck it up and keep taking what we give you. So, yeah, it's a little disturbing. The trend I'm seeing with some of these radio personalities, the governor, some of our other elected officials who are all climbing on board and making me feel like, trying to make me feel like one of these progressive protesters that I have 3 colors of hair.
They're creating a false dichotomy because this is a local issue.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to create a false dichotomy. And I think this falls into like the 14th Amendment. And I have the 14th Amendment. I have my state constitution here. So it says right here, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or the immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, or deny any person with its jurisdiction equal protection of laws. And so when they make the capitalism argument, they're in reality they're crony capitalists. This isn't capitalism because we have government, we have a process, and if a data center wants to come in and they want to put their data center there, they have to go through the planning and zoning. And I understand planning and zoning, they could be kind of communist and rather restrictive, but at the same time, if they are looking into zoning for a data center and everyone comes out and says, no, we don't want this, then we live in a representative form of government. We live in a republic. Those representatives should say, okay, then if this is not what the people want, then we should turn this down. And so that's how our system of government works. And if government's going to make the opposite decision, be like, you know what, screw the people, we're just going to approve a data center anyway, that's crony capitalism.
Yeah. So Brandon, I don't know if you saw this or not, but I just saw that Elliot Davis from Fox 2 just posted something today that said that the Festus City Council said, yeah, we know you got enough signatures to recall us, but we're turning that down and we're not letting it proceed.
I saw that.
And it's like,
how crazy is that, dude? That's hilarious. Like, not for the people of Festus, but like just from an outsider politically. Like, it's just a funny situation where they're like, we don't like clearly because of the last city council vote or the last vote they had to elect city council, all of the old members, all of the incumbents were ousted. And then they get enough signatures on a petition to call a recall vote. You'd think that the people in charge would be like, we're so sorry. Like, we didn't realize, sure, let's do a recall vote. We're going to try to win favor back over. No, they doubled down the opposite. Now they have the lawsuit to prevent the recall. And now they've just decided they're not having a recall as a town council. I mean,
and you want to know something? That data center that they pushed in Festus, it was previously supposed to be in St. Charles, and we stopped that. Bill Eigel got us out. So the developer had an expo here in St. Charles last year, and they were going to put it on a piece of land, and it was basically in a flood zone, and it was also on top of the wellhead for the entire county, and also the land was owned by a cousin of the mayor, and so they had an expo. And then basically what ended up happening was everyone turned out and everyone was like, hell no to this. And basically they withdrew the proposal. And then I ended up going to the the city council because it was St. Charles City, the city municipality. So I went to the meeting and everyone spoke against the data center, and I did too. But I called on the mayor to resign because of that blatant corruption. And I think there was at least a call for an investigation into that because there was non-disclosure agreements and whatnot. And then they just pushed that down. They moved it to Festus. That's what ended up happening.
Oh, lovely.
Well, now it seems like they're probably going to have to move it somewhere else unless they just get it built before they get a new council in there. Do you have any other type of file? Because the type of file you sent me, I can't open with anything. It was like a Pages file. Do you have a PDF or a Word document?
Send it as a PDF here.
Yeah, if you have a PDF version, I can share that for sure. But the Pages, I couldn't get Adobe Acrobat to open it or Word or anything to open it, so I wasn't sure.
You know what's funny too, Brandon, is I think I put in Tom and yours and my text group that the elected officials in Festus should really feel fortunate that they're not how would you say it? They're not the people are being civilized and there's not killdozers being manufactured in large amounts, and they're like, oh, you gonna continue with this? Okay, well, we'll just push every city government building down and you won't even be able to hold a meeting anymore. But here's the thing, like, right, when you have this kind of outcry from people and they're like, no, I don't think you got the message the first time. Let me turn it up for you so you can hear it.
Yeah. Did you see what they did in Franklin County?
Yeah, they said no public.
They completely shut it down.
Yeah, you had to put your comments in a box. So, but here's the thing, right? You see this, there is a tremendous outcry from the majority of the people, the overwhelming majority of the people that say, we don't want this. And they're like, yeah, well, sucks to be you. We're going to push this through anyway. You get some people to lose their jobs as a politician, and then they try to recall the mayor. And I think there's still a couple other aldermen they want to boot out. And it's just like, okay, so these people are being super civilized right now. And why are we, at what point when the politicians don't listen, the people get fed up, it goes to the next step, which is threats of violence or violence. And here's the problem. The media will come out and they'll just blame it all on the people who got fed up. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with what they're doing, but the city aldermen, the city itself will immediately play the victim. And the people who take it to the next level catch all the flack. And it's like, yeah, we don't necessarily agree with their reaction to this, but you can't just pretend like this fell out of the sky and suddenly people are just angry. You know what I'm saying? That's ridiculous. But that's what I'm kind of watching for. What the heck happened? Oh, sorry. But that's kind of what I'm watching for right now. Like, what's going on? Why are we, I don't like that view. But you know, it's like, what do you expect from people after so much time when they've done it the civilized way? They spoke their dissent. You ignore them. They kick people out of office and try to recall. And you're like, yeah, we're not letting you go that far. I mean, would it surprise you if this turns a slight bit ugly down the road, depending on where this thing goes, if they continue not to listen to the people of Festus?
You know, I would hate if this went to a violent direction. I definitely don't encourage that, no matter how bad things get. But I feel like that this is, in a way, there is a little bit of a psyop kind of going on, and that's the direction the powers that be want to take it in that direction. I do see how they want want that to happen because chaos. That's how the establishment and the elites thrive. They want the chaos. They want the division. They want left versus right. If you're not for data centers, you're leftist, and if you are, you're Rhino or whatever. They want this division, and I'm not playing into that. This is all about local rights. It's all it's about. And anyone that's doing that, you should second guess them, basically.
Absolutely. Brandon, you got anything?
Yeah. So with when it comes to like the flock camera data collection, do you know in St. Charles like that's third party, right? Like, so do you know anything about like the contract that St. Charles County has with, like, are we paying a third party company to track us, or is it like it's not a government function, right? It is like it is a separate entity where all the data is being collected.
Yeah, so I've had some conflicting information from some government officials. I'm trying to do some more research, but my understanding is that they did buy the flock cameras for sure, the flock cameras by themselves, and I think they may be on the flock programming system. And then the Genetech, I believe those cameras they control the database themselves. That's my understanding.
Okay. And then I'm just kind of curious, what was it like working for Bob Onder? Like, can you tell us like what the experience for being like on his being an intern for sitting U.S. representative was like?
Yeah, so I didn't go to DC. It was just in his local office here in St. Charles. I just accepted calls, but I just helped him with helped the local office with basic things. I would attend events on his behalf, like Chamber of Commerce kind of stuff and business, like ribbon cuttings. And whenever he was in the district, I traveled with him. That's actually how I met Ike Skelton. We traveled to Eldon, Missouri, and that's how I met Ike Skelton and shook hands with him in person. And then that's how I really got into the flock issue. So it was an interesting experience. It was just a 3-month thing. But I took calls from people and heard their concerns, mostly a bunch of, leftists kind of complaining about, Onder being a conservative, and a Trump kind of conservative. But it was a good experience.
Right. And just basing kind of guess off your social media posts, you don't seem to be too happy necessarily with the direction that the Republican Party is heading or has been kind of in, and sort of the not split, not faction, but like
I talk about nationally.
Yeah.
Talking about like happening. Yeah, that's
right.
definitely happening. I think. Look, I don't want to criticize Trump. Like, I have some particular criticisms about the Iran war, and I'm really frustrated and dismayed with what's happening. And I'm trying to understand what's happening and waiting for that outcome, whatever that ultimate outcome is. But I will say is that when we were trying to get Trump elected in 2024, the urgency was real to get Biden out, or whoever his next puppet was going to be. The urgency to take back power, especially after they tried to kill him. The urgency not just to make America great again, but to put America first and solve some domestic issues was real. And I would say Trump, in the first 6 months of his presidency, he was doing really good. And he's done some good things, but I think he has taken there's been some missteps for sure with the Epstein files that has really hurt him, regardless of what you think of the Epstein files. I've always been in the Epstein files and accountability, releasing everything and arresting all the co-conspirators, and I want to see that, and I'm not really seeing that, unfortunately, and I hope it happens. And then with the Iran war, I was with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was against the Iran war. He was anti-Iran, but he was against the Iran war, going to war with them. He was against a forever war. And then, he was killed under some very unusual circumstances. And I'm still going to take that stance. I don't believe like going into Iran. It's a massive nation with like tens of millions of people. That's not a winnable war. No matter how much you hate Iran, I don't believe we should have gone into there. It wasn't a winnable war. They told us, we're going to save the people. We're going to help them overturn the government. And I don't buy the narratives around the nuclear stuff. They've never had a nuclear weapon. They were never striving to have a nuclear weapon. And I just think this whole thing was kind of stupid. But I hope it turns out for the best.
Yeah, I guess I mean more kind of like because you seem very involved in Republican, like in the Republican Party. Like you seem to
Yeah.
support certain candidates within the party.
Right.
But when you've got like Donald Trump and all of the forces at be, let's say,
Hmm.
working so hard to oust a guy like Thomas Massey, who
Yeah.
stands for all of the things that that a lot of people like about classic conservatives.
Hmm.
The smaller government, like actually reducing spending. So, like, where do you feel that kind of energy among like the young Republicans that you interact with? That like they're also very fed up with like the upper tier of leadership in a way, and like certain stances that they take and the way that they kind of handle outsiders.
Yeah, for sure. I would say there is a difference between like us conservatism, and there's other people my age, they may be conservative, but they're just kind of like go with the flow. But they're generally, I'd say my generation is in line with me because I went to this event, uh, uh, what was it, Sunday night, and it was just a worship, just Christian young adults worshiping in the park, and I brought my petition, and I asked them, hey, I have this flock camera ban proposal, and I asked them, you want to sign it? They were so excited to sign it. There wasn't one person that was like, oh, that was basically a contrarian. None of them. My generation, we have screens in front of us everywhere and cameras everywhere, and we crave solitude and privacy. And they were all eager to sign my ban, and they're generally in line with me, especially on the flock camera issue, and even the data centers, which is, it's interesting. And what I find is that when I'm on the street trying to talk to older generations like Gen X and Boomers about the flock camera thing, is kind of split. I would say the majority, they are against the flock cameras. They want freedom, but then there's just a few of them. They're like, well, there's like, you don't want to, don't you want to fight crime and catch criminals and catch pedophiles and blah blah blah? And I'm just like, you're missing the point, so.
Right. Oh, sorry, John, you go ahead.
No, you go right ahead,
Oh,
Brandon.
I was just going to note that, like, yeah, the flock cameras and the data centers, it all kind of
Mhm.
goes, like we were saying earlier, all kind of encompasses the surveillance state that we sort of have grown accustomed to. Because
Right.
even if you're a guy like Edward Snowden who exposes, massive government surveillance programs, you're forced to live overseas now. Like they force you into hiding. They threaten you with violence just
Right.
for exposing how much data they're actually collecting on you. So,
Yeah, I can remember post 9/11, and they've really come hard and heavy with the TSA, and the Patriot Act starts rolling out. And I can remember talking to people around my age, and they were like, I don't know what the big deal is. I'm not doing anything wrong. And I go, okay, cool. But do you fully trust these people? And is there any reason why they should be collecting every email, listening on every phone call, collecting every text message you send out, like that? You're comfortable with that because you don't do anything wrong.
Yeah, you
I
you
had
don't do
a
anything wrong, yeah.
I
It's
had a
ridiculous.
lot of trouble with that mindset with people. Like, I get it. You're not doing anything wrong,
But they
but
could accuse you of doing something wrong. Now, these flock cameras, they definitely falsely flag people. And there was this woman in O'Fallon. I found this video of her from last year, and she went in front of the O'Fallon Council, and she basically was like, she's basically petrified and basically traumatized. And what she said was that her husband was falsely flagged by the flock system, and they came to her house with guns drawn. And I actually tried to reach out to her, but it didn't go well because she was frightened that I didn't have the best intentions or something.
Mhm.
And I think she thought I brought too much attention to her, and she just wasn't interested in I was wanting to help her. And unfortunately, she was just so petrified she didn't want to get into contact with me.
It's funny too, because we're talking about, it's not funny, but it's funny that we're talking about this and talking about the ever more encroaching of systems like this, and they just build a profile on you and accuse you of things. So,
Yeah.
um, just saw a story. It's an older story. It's from earlier this year, where a gentleman from the UK came to the US for his 50th birthday, went to a friend's house in Florida, and his friend's like, "Hey, you want to shoot some guns?" And he's like, "Yeah, because I don't get to shoot them in the UK." So he shoots pistols, he shoots shotguns, he shoots rifles. His buddy's like, "Hey, you want me?" excuse me, you want me to take some pictures? And he's like, yeah. So he goes back to the UK. A couple weeks later, he posts the photos, and he gets visited by the police 3 times and arrested a couple of times. Now, come to find out, he had a like there was some type of business thing that he was not getting along with this other person, and this person turned him in. And the language that they use is so generic in order to just everything's going to fit in this wedge if they wanted to, right? It's going to fit under this language. And it was like, oh, it's this, I don't remember what it was, but it was like violence or threatening behavior.
Yeah, England is like that. So I actually have ties to England. My grandmother lives there. I actually visited there twice. And one time we got a little bonfire pit, and we just put a few sticks in there, burned it. And 15 minutes later, there's a helicopter flying over us, like hovering, and it was just there for like 30 minutes. And then we tried to put it out. We put it out with a hose or something, and then it went away. And that was my experience in England while I was 11 years old. And when I was walking on Main Street the other day, I ran into this English guy. He was from England, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't, you know, he's not for the, you know, the surveillance either." So,
yeah, it was just kind of crazy how much they hounded this guy, and they ransacked his home looking for the firearm. He's like, guys, I don't own these. I was in the U.S. And now he is like, really, like, I'm trying to move to the U.S. He's
yeah,
actually
sounds like England.
Yeah, he was actually almost like he was like seeking like political asylum. And he's like, my message to people in the United States is fight, fight, fight. Like fight for your freedom. Don't let these whack jobs. But you know, and you go from that, and then you hear the talk about the data centers and even the flock cameras and everything. And they're like, we have to beat China to the punch. And it's like, what do we beat him to? A better social credit score system?
Exactly.
Like, what are you looking to beat China to? Because
we actually have like 10 times more data centers than they do.
Yeah, that's what
we
I
don't
read
want to be like
day.
China. Tim Jones, we do not want to be like China. Not in any way. I'm talking to you, Tim Jones.
Let's face it, Tim Jones also
he's a car salesman. He's a car salesman.
It's funny too, because he was on that Jeffco Patriot Radio the other day. He's like, yeah, these bills come through Missouri, and they're just omnibus bills. I'm like, you're acting surprised by this, dude. Like, you were Speaker of the House. You know this goes on. Stop trying to BS me into thinking that you're somehow shocked that this behavior is going on.
You're somehow becoming enlightened yesterday or something.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, you just fell off the turnip truck, buddy. What the heck's going on?
Exactly.
Brandon, what do you got, Brandon?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's their MO. Bryant Wolfen does great on it every year where it gets close to the end of session. And Joe Nicola was talking about it as a senator too this year, when they just dropped the omnibus bills at the end of the year. Not the appropriations bills; those are always omnibus. So a whole nother subject. But they'll have like 50 pet projects that some people have been trying to get done, and so to get all of them over the finish line at one time, they just cram them into one bill. Super unconstitutional, super frustrating for a guy like Tom Martz, I'm sure.
I know. I've seen this firsthand, actually. You know, I've gone to the Capitol several times, and especially this year I went, and, you know, I got to sit next to Lisa Panetta of the Shield Maidens, and she really has her institutional knowledge is like far out. Like, you know, I wish I had that level of institutional knowledge about what goes on in there. And you know, I was sitting with her and watching what was happening, and they were bringing up Republican bills in the Senate. And then all these Democrats were coming up, tacking on amendments, and there was no Republicans to resist them. And I'm like, where is my senator? Where's like Nick Schroer and all the so-called freedom warriors to vote down these amendments by these Democrats? You know, and that's when that really blackballed me about the system, because I knew there was a rhino issue going back to like 2022, 2023, when they added that sunset to the SAFE Act, when they stopping the transient kids, and they added that sunset to sell out when I knew they could have passed it. You know, it's just so bad in this state. Like, the Republican Party in this state is worse than the national level. It's like I say it's like a corporation. It's basically like a corporation, and it's so corrupt and so bad. Like, I don't even know that we can fix it, and it's really sad.
Yeah, we are not we. because Brandon and I know you, Jake, but Brandon and I are definitely not dependent like the Republicans.
Right. Me neither. Me neither. I say I'm a conservative, not a Republican. And they took that and ran with it. Like Tim Jones was like, "You said you're not a Republican 3 weeks ago." I said, "No, I'm a conservative, not a Republican, because the Republican Party is not conservative."
Well, yeah, because they are so dependent on lobbyists to retain their supermajority or their majority that they are not letting go of all that lobbyist money in order to retain the power that they now have. And it's turned ugly. And yeah, like the Nick Schroers, you know, when you point out that his constitutional voting score sucks, he quits responding. But if you just send him a generic response and he wants to send you a stupid GIF or a meme, and you're like, all right, you're acting like an adolescent child. Good job. But it's not an intelligent type of discourse that I can have with you.
Yeah, I countered the same thing with him when I try to call him out. So he him and the other senator for St. Charles County, they voted against live streaming of the Senate when Mike Moon brought it up. They actually voted to kill it, but I can't prove it because it was a standing division vote. But Mike Moon told me that they both voted to kill the bill. And I asked him privately, you know, did you do this? And he basically lied to me. So I called him all out online. Why'd you vote to kill it? And he basically just insulted me like, you're a loser, and you have no job or something. And it just wasn't true. And that's how he is. He's a pathetic little man. That's what he is. They all have big egos and small little ding dongs. Let's just say that.
Well, what drives me nuts too is that they like what they kind of like at the end of the day, at the end of the session, when you look at some of the things that they actually did accomplish, it'll be like adding regulations to slot machines at gas stations, adding regulations to hemp, adding regulations to Delta 8. It's like the Republican Party, even the most Freedom Caucus members of the Freedom Caucus, like, sure, you've got you've got 2 gender bathrooms inside of government buildings. Like, congratulations, you got that very small win. But then, like I said, but the most of what you're doing, you're spending most of your time just working on pumping regulation through, which is not, like you said, that's not conservative, especially on things like hemp and Delta 8. Like how everything's got to be funneled now through a dispensary instead of being able to get things at the gas station or at convenience stores where they're still going to ID you. Like, that's the part that kills me, is that all of their reasoning behind it, it's not conservative either. And I don't know. We could, like me and John, we could go on for days about how unconservative the Missouri legislature is, for sure.
We probably need to tone it down a little bit, or no, like, Republican that's been in there at any point in time for any length of time is going to want to come on here. Because if they come on and like watch a couple episodes, you're like, good Lord, they're going to bring me on and beat the snot of man. Like, no, Jake, I'm not, you know, I know you started a podcast. Let me just pass this one thing to you that I learned from a friend. And to me, it makes a much more enjoyable podcast experience. When we have a guest on, what we like to do is we like to let the conversation go where it goes instead of guiding it with questions all the time. You will be surprised. Now, this is just you. Like, let's say you decide you're like, I'm going to bring on someone who's running against the incumbent. We've done several on the show. You just let them talk and they will hang themselves. It's a beautiful thing. You don't even have to like ask them pointing. You can ask them generic questions. They'll start rambling. They get comfortable. And all of a sudden you're like, haha, gotcha. You're not as conservative as
rule number one of debate. Just let them talk.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great thing. So I'm not trying to tell you how to run your show by any means. It's great to see more podcasts coming out that are liberty oriented. We love that. But I'm just saying, if you just let the information flow, dude, we had a guy come on here. Somebody recommended a guy to come on here one time, and he's like talking about the casinos, and he's like, you know, if we had casinos, and we're like, dude, we have casinos in the state of Missouri. He's like, oh, I wasn't aware of that. And I'm like, what are we doing here right now? Like, it was crazy.
You know what you're talking about. Yeah,
it was crazy. So let me ask you this. I'm probably jumping way ahead in the timeline of this, but we're just having this open conversation. Do you think at any point down the road you will run for state rep or state senate? Is that something that you've considered as you're going through this political thing that you dove headfirst into? Do you see yourself maybe running for office down the road?
You know, I do find it appealing in a way, not because I want power or fame in any way. I really don't, but I want to use that to make a difference. I feel like I can make a really bigger difference outside the system. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to gather a following of people that share my beliefs and values and principles and really build on that and use that for change. Because if I were to go into the system as a state rep or even a state senator, I'd basically be like Mike Moon and Bryant Wolfen. I would need allies. I would need backup. And I would just be alone in the corner, just like, and they'd be like, okay, Jake, whatever, you know, that's what they would do. And they do that to Bryant Wolfen. They consider, they're like, yeah, he's a nice guy, but he votes with the Democrats. He votes against all the Republican stuff and all that. And they don't understand why. And it's just like, no matter what he says to those people, lays out the Constitution, they just don't get it. And so we need better representatives in every district, and that is really hard. You know, every single district trying to get the right person is a monumental task. You have to have the money, you have to have the right candidates. You basically have to clone Bryant Wolfen, Mike Moon, and me, and put those clones in every district and run them with a shit ton of money, and that'd be really hard.
Yeah, I will say that you know, we had some county Republican committees who said, I believe it was 2024, they said, we want to vet candidates. We want to give them this questionnaire. We want to question them. We want to see, and we want to see how they answer. And the state Republican Party said, you do that and we'll sue you. So the state Republicans were like, the head of the state Republican Party was like, you will not vet the candidates. Now, to me, that's pretty darn ignorant, right? That's pretty dumb to say something like that, again, they proclaim to have this platform that they run on, limited government, and smaller budgets and less spending and lower taxes. And then you want to vet to make sure you have the right people that you're running. And they're like, you can't do that.
It's common sense. And the fact that they don't do that, it means they're looking for other things. They're looking for basically puppets. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for people that are trying to push conservatism.
For sure. Brandon, you got any questions, brother?
Not off the top of my head, right? I just want to know if either one of you guys had seen where Bernie Sanders was like, he's like actually putting a proposal in the Senate where the U.S. government was basically just going to take 50% of the profits from data center companies. And then they asked Trump about it on Air Force One. And he's like, actually, that sounds like a pretty good idea. It'd be an entity owned by the people. And I couldn't believe it. Like it was funny how much they sounded alike when they were talking about like government ownership of AI data centers. And then, or just like the AI technology once it becomes profitable, which, funny enough, the Nate Thurston from Good Morning Liberty, he was talking about how he was like, that's just going to kill the profit incentive. And so all of this great technology that you are planning on sucking all the profits out of, it's not going to come nearly as fast, if at all, if the government steps in and just starts taking all of the profits away from the top. And so I don't know, the whole concept, when you've got Trump who bought stock in Intel earlier this year or last year, and then was trying to get a deal done to buy Spirit Airlines, and now he's talking about taking the profits from these AI companies. I don't know. It's just a surprising sort of populist, socialist, like, I don't know, rhetoric that surprised me from Trump, which, like I said, not entirely based on his track record over the last couple of years, but just on, you would think instinctually he would have just been like, we don't want to be doing that. Like, even just say the generic, like, it'll kill productivity, it'll kill prices, or whatever you have to say. But him going out there like that, I don't know if you guys had an opinion.
I don't think he did the research in that. He just thought it sounded like a good idea, and he probably just liked it. So,
yeah, here's the thing. This is just me personally. Anytime the government says they want to regulate something, they want
No,
to, and it's like automatic.
absolutely
And
not.
so that's the thing. There's a whole lot of them saying, well, we need to figure out how to regulate this. And it's like, yes, but who's going to help them write the regulations? It won't be just the politicians getting together and writing this out. No, the guys who own the companies are going to come in, they're going to sit down, they're going to pin it, and they're going to be like, there goes our competition. Hooray for us. Now we'll get whatever we want because we're the only groups left standing. And it's just, it's one of those things, Jake. It's people have been brainwashed for so long that their rights come from government and you need the government to protect you from every single thing, every single day of your life. And people are so just tuned into that. It's really hard to pull them away and go, listen, you would be shocked how much you don't need the government, like how little. And that is the biggest threat to a government official is for the people to figure out how much we don't need them.
And actually, I was talking to someone again on the street. I was talking to this older guy, and I said, I believe the role of government is not to keep us safe, but to enforce the law. And that's how government works. That is the role of police. They execute the law. And he just looked at me like I had 5 heads. He was like, where did you learn the Constitution? I was like, where did you? Because I said this in my speech in front of the county council, I don't want government's top priority to be keeping me safe. I want to be protecting my rights because that's its proper role, according to Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah. Our good friend of the show, Tom Martz, he has said it enough now when I talk to people, and I'm not belittling anyone or talking smack about anyone. People are used to saying, I have a constitutional right to this. I have a constitutional right to that. I get it. They've heard that a lot of times and they just say that. Tom has got me into the habit, thankfully, of anytime I lay it out, I go, they're taking away your, like, Second Amendment. They're taking away your natural right of self-defense. Or if it's talking about the First Amendment, I say they're taking away your natural right of free expression. I think that's something else we need to get. Somehow we need to figure out how to get that into people's heads. Like, hey, those rights didn't come to you because the founders wrote a document called the Constitution. They just said, these are the things we need to protect. This is it. This is our role. We protect these things.
That's our inherent rights from God. They're divine rights that we have already. And all the Constitution does is reaffirm that.
Yeah. Right. And so if that's like one thing we got to work on is like getting people to understand, like, don't say constitutional right, say natural right.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah.
And it kind of reinforces something with, you'll say that some people are like, oh yeah. And you're like, yeah, don't ever think that these people somehow were so smart. Now, I'm not saying the founders were highly intelligent people, clearly, but they didn't invent the rights when they wrote the Declaration of Independence. They didn't be like, oh yeah, we had a really good idea. Let's just let people have guns. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, people want to protect themselves.
Common sense and reason, they had, the process of reasoning. And, there have been many thinkers, thinking about this for, decades before them. So, and it was based on religious values and law, like thousands of years of law. And so it was, I agree with you. They didn't just pull it out of their butt one day.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm trying to think here. So do you have a roundish figure, getting back, getting back to the flock cameras just for a moment here. Do you have a round figure on like how many of these cameras are up? Let's just say like in the general St. Louis area. Have you kind of found it like a somewhat ballpark figure of how many of these cameras are up and running right now? I didn't know if you could get that data or not.
St. Louis area. I would have to refer you to DFlock, that their website. I just know St. Charles, we have 30, almost 30 flock cameras, and then maybe a few hundred Genetec cameras, and then there's the local municipalities as well. So there's probably hundreds, if not maybe. If you're talking about the entire St. Louis area, like St. Louis City, County, St. Charles. By the way, St. Charles is different from St. Louis, by the way. We are very separate from them. We emphasize that very much, that river, the Missouri River, that's our border wall. But I would say that in the St. Louis area, there could be 1,000.
I just want to add a quick point real quick about these flock cameras too.
Sure.
So one of the best arguments I've heard in support of flock cameras, I've heard two decent, what I would consider decent arguments in support of flock cameras. And the one of them is that, like, if someone steals your car, they're able to track it with the flock cameras. Like, they're able to figure out, you know, using them, what streets people turned on, or if they left or came out from certain cities. My point is that what you are again doing is having the government circumvent your own responsibility to protect your own private property.
Yeah.
Because no one's ever stopping you from putting your own cameras on your car.
Or a tracker. How much is an Apple tag?
Right. Or some sort, they make trackers specifically for cars where the battery lasts for like up to 2 weeks or a month or 6 months, maybe. I don't remember exactly, but I looked into it when I heard that argument. And so, yeah, exactly. You can put a camera in your own car. You can put dash cams on both sides, and then you could also put a tracker in your car, and then you're not relying on the government to do your work for you and making your whole town reliant on these cameras because, well, it's for the safety. Protect yourself. Don't make it everyone else's priority, and then also while at the same time creating this massive surveillance apparatus. And like, let's say sure that the people who are on the county council and the people who are in charge of the police department right now have good intentions, and they use this stuff for good intentions. That's not going to stop the next wave of people coming in from having bad intentions, but having that authority and technology available to them. Because, like, you're setting yourself on a path.
Yeah. So I was actually talking to, I was texting one of the county council members in my county, St. Charles, and I was telling him, what about what this could turn into the future? Like, you're laying the groundwork for a surveillance state, and you're not always going to be in power. You know, there's always going to be someone after you. What if they use this in a way that turns into total surveillance state? And what he said was that I have to consider now. I don't consider the future. That's what he literally said to me. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I'm a young person. You should be thinking about my future, and you're not thinking about my future when you're doing this.
So this is just like St. Louis and points west. And the part of the map that I'm zoomed in on right now, as you can see, there are 995 of these cameras. Now, Flock is short. I love this. Flock Safety. Boy, what a name.
Yeah.
657. Genetec, 263. Motorola Solutions, 48.
Yeah, those
and 22 unknown. I was also I shock's probably not the right word, but here's Jefferson City. As you can tell, like especially up around the Capitol building, it's like a perimeter on McCarty Street, East High Street. I'm going to have the next tomorrow. When I go to drop my wife off, I'm going to have to be on the lookout for these cameras here. I noticed Columbia had
it's getting to a point where you just can't avoid them anymore. It sucks.
All right, okay. Yeah, so here's Columbia. And if I zoom in on Columbia, more proper area, 103 flock, and they're all but 7 of those are flock. Let's go to KC. I'm sure. Oh my God.
Oh boy.
So we're talking Independence, Roundabout, those areas, Overland Park, 1,200. Whoo-wee. Look at, like, dude, you get into like
this happened right under our noses too. Right, this just happened right under our noses, and people don't pay attention.
So it's sad. Yeah, and to just clarify, folks, because again, I know that people may not want to be like, oh, that's stupid. So here we go. Here's Mount Sterling, Missouri, and doink, there it is. One flock camera right there on the bridge going over the Gasconade River. So yeah, it's right there. So every day, if you go towards Jeff City, your license plate's being dinged by a flock camera. So I almost want to, I don't know, like, can I even find a way to get to Jeff City without crossing one flock camera? Because
all right, you have to take some dirt roads, maybe.
I'm thinking so, because I'm trying to find.
We'll take a helicopter.
So if I take me and my old eyes here. So if I take 19 and I go north to Herman, there's Herman. Herman has 0. I would have to literally take 94 all the way in to Jefferson City. But once I get close, oh, whoa, what is that? So
right when yes, that's where everyone goes.
Right before the bridge going south to across the Missouri, there's one. I think I know where that's at too. And then you have the and they're all pointed towards the Capitol building.
Yeah, right. When so I come in from that direction off the highway from the north, and I take that route, Main Street or whatever, right towards the Capitol. So, yeah.
Oh.
You're gonna need a boat to avoid those cameras. Just jump in at Washington.
Yeah, just take the Missouri all the way to Jeff City.
Yeah. You're gonna have to go up the river, but yeah,
I have a canoe, so that could work.
You can take your bike down the Katy Trail, get as close as you can.
I don't have enough battery.
No, I'm talking mountain gears. Just ride it.
That's a long ride.
Let's see. What's this one that is? So these are going to be on 44. Is this all right? Get out of there. Come on. Bourbon has one. Interesting.
Can you look in the southern Missouri area?
Absolutely. Like where you want to go?
Poplar Bluff, Doniphan.
Okay, so oh my God, look at Cape Girardeau.
Oh,
there's a huge blob there. Let's dial into that one. Cape has 38, and they're all flock. Sykeston's got a few. Bluff? And then there it is. Poplar Bluff has 1 on the outlying area. Oh, they have 2 on the outlying area on US 60. And Poplar Bluff has
That's
none.
Probably maybe Highway Patrol, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting. They don't
Good
have
for them.
Okay, let's all right, where I hate being old and needing bifocals. This sucks, by the way. I'm trying to find Okay. There's what is that? Oh, that's Nashville. Good Lord, I'm way off. Okay. My God. John needs to know how to use a map because he's dumb as dirt. So
I got a question for you, Jake. Just so because again, this is the other decent argument I heard in support of flock cameras. What if they were going to specifically only put them near parks to track and make sure that pedophiles weren't going to parks? That is one argument.
Not a license plate reader; it's recording you. And they could use facial recognition instead of like, oh, it's a license plate reader. So no, the fact that they're surveilling us and putting that into a system, making us trackable, it's just, my answer is no to that. Absolutely not.
Even if
I've seen pictures like where there's a flock camera on a trail, a walking trail. I'm just like, what are they doing?
It would be in that hypothetical, it would be to protect the woman who's jogging. Or,
I mean, sure, but a pedophile could just walk to the park and instead of using a vehicle or whatever, they could use a different vehicle. I mean,
right. Yeah,
they have to have facial recognition to recognize that person.
Right. So it's adding basically, you set up these cameras, you might catch one, but then all of them are going to be aware of the cameras. So then they're just going to try to, they're going to find a way to get around it.
Yeah.
It's not actually. All it's really doing is adding more to their surveillance state.
And yeah, and that route, it's just a slippery slope, Like in England, they banned all knives. Basically, you can't carry a knife unless you're Sikh, of course. But they banned all knives, and you can't even have a knife on you. You can't if you want kitchen knives, you have to have them approved or something. There's no end to the safety. So
now, weird transition time, but you said knife, and for some reason my slightly aging brain is getting to constant word association now. So I hear a word, it makes me jump to something else. I'm sure you guys probably heard about the Carmelo Anthony verdict that came out today. Do you think that the left has an appetite to bring back a 2020 style protest over this kind of thing? Or because I've contended that a lot of that stuff was funded, that it was funded by certain entities, hard to track exactly which ones, but that's my tinfoil hat conspiracy. So do you think that like there's any energy to like for a protest of that nature over this kind of a thing?
Not really. I think everyone got out whatever they had, pent up in them in 2020, and they could do that for another issue, but for this, I don't think so. But just look what's happening in England. Have you seen with that young guy Henry Kovac that was killed by the Sikh? And they're rioting. Have you guys seen that? Like they're literally burning down migrant homes and buses. Like you guys should look into what's going on there, and it's crazy.
Yeah,
they're literally rioting.
Well, yeah, England has had they've had a government that is bent over backwards to protect people doing, like the Pakistani gangs and all of that kind of stuff, and
it's been going on for decades and decades. My mom, she can tell me that she went to England in the 80s and she saw like Muslim families, like a man and like his like 3 wives, and one looked particularly young, and that was happening in the 80s in England. So they have been sold down the river for a long time, and I don't know that they can be saved. I hope that the English people can take back their government and try to turn it around, but it doesn't look good for them.
Well, for starters, they need the United States government to stop creating so many refugees in the Middle East to funnel into all of these countries.
Yeah, the CIA, yeah, it's terrible.
But you get people caught up on both sides in this kind of like if you just go and start burning immigrant houses, that's going to look bad. You know what I mean? Like
that's part of the agenda too. It's part of the agenda. That's what they want.
To sow that division, like you were saying earlier. But
yeah,
but like at a like people. There's no justification for burning down a stranger's house who's done nothing wrong to you per se, but it's what I'd consider a somewhat likely outcome when you have issues.
That's tied to the data center thing. Like when they can't do anything, what else are they going to do? When everything fails government wise and due process wise, what else are they going to do?
Right.
And they're going to resort to violence, and we don't condone that. But it's just that's the natural course of events, unfortunately.
Right. You would hope that they would at least limit their violence to the people responsible. Yeah. But at a certain point, the government is only as powerful as the governed allow it to be. So at a certain point, you have to take to the streets and stand for your values.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's crazy that they feel the need that they had to resort to something like that, and that just how crazy it can be. And when you've got guys like, I think I read somewhere today that James Tallarico of Texas is 3 points favorited over Ken Paxton in the general election.
That's nonsense. There's no chance the Democrat's going to win. That is basically Rhino establishment propaganda that Paxton is somehow going to lose. He's going to win. This happens every election cycle. They get worried a Democrat's going to win, and then they don't. The Republicans have a really strong hold on Texas, and Paxton's going to win. It's not going to be close. I remember here in 24, they thought the race was going to be narrow between Hawley and that. What was that guy's name? I forgot his name, but he was interesting.
The guy who shot the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they thought that was going to be close, and it wasn't close. So.
Well, the polling didn't have that one close. The polling had that one Hawley pretty consistently.
He felt the need to come out to St. Charles though to visit.
Oh, he debated, but when I was checking the polling on that, from what the available polling I could see, especially after, man, I wish I wasn't blanking on his name so hard. But anyway, when I was looking at the polling seemed like Hawley was always in a pretty comfortable position. That's why I was wondering why he debated in the first place. Because usually incumbents in that kind of a position, like I'm running as a libertarian against Ann Wagner, she'll never debate. She's never going to debate the Democrat, especially now they've cut off more like suburban area and added more rural area to her district. And so, I mean, she's never going to have to debate. So, and again, I think it was Ted Cruz was one of the last senators who was up for election in Texas. And that was relatively close, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a big blowout. So, favorability nationally among Republicans is pretty down right now. So, I'm sort of leaning with what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree with that particular poll. I do think Texas is probably still going to stay red as far as the Senate goes.
Yeah.
But I think that there's going to be a lot of really close elections that Republicans didn't in the past have not necessarily thought of as going to be that competitive. I think they're going
It
to be
really
a lot
depends on
closer.
how this goes here in 2024. You know, if Trump can get this Iran war to come to a conclusion and bring the gas prices back down, then I think that would help him a little bit. But if this extends on and on, the Iran conflict, and the gas prices stay up, then it's going to hurt him.
Well, it's not only I think what's going to also hurt him too, especially among independents, is that if he doesn't actually accomplish all the things that he said he's going
That
to
too.
accomplish with this,
Yeah, I agree.
and so
100%.
like he could just withdraw now, but all anyone's going to say is about how he withdrew now. And don't get me wrong, I 1000% think that's what he should do. But anytime he hints that there's a deal or that he's pulling out, he gets it from the right, which like the Mark Levin types, he gets it from them. And then he also gets it from like the Harry Sissons in the left, who are like, see, Donald Trump went in there and he didn't accomplish anything. And so for him, he's in a tough situation now where
that's why we should have never gotten involved in the first place. And I really didn't want him to do it, but he did, and that's where we are today. And yeah.
Now, do you think that has anything to do with the influence of a foreign lobby?
I think there's a lot of influence that Israel has on the Republican Party, and I think unfortunately Trump has a lot of voices in his ear. Would I go as far to say he's compromised? I wouldn't say that, but I think he's got a lot of bad voices in his ear, and I think that's what's going wrong right now.
I've said this on the show a few times, and I kind of mean it. I'm not really jesting that much. But in this state, I think there are some Republicans that need to lose their seat to another party. Now, I don't care if it's a Libertarian. I don't care if it's a Democrat, because they are way too freaking comfortable with this majority that they've had. Now that you get the Jess Pipers of the world are like, we're coming. Like, yeah, I'm sure you are. And all your weirdness. And I mean, it's so weird because she can be right on things, but about like data centers, she doesn't like them. But the thing is, like, she could be on the right side of a topic, but the way she wants to fix it is stupid and backwards.
I know.
She wants a government intervention, and we're like, no, you're right here. You're this close to having it figured out, and your mind automatically goes back to how do I get the government
stuck in that false dichotomy.
Oh God, it's
when Jess Piper ends up on the right side of a topic, I compare it to like the kid
broken
in baseball.
Clock is right twice a day.
Well, I compare it to the kid who was right, who in baseball, who swung so early that he went all the way around and then hit it on the follow through.
Yep.
And you're like, you don't even know why you hit that. You don't even act like you know why the ball even went the way you thought it did. You got lucky and the ball went the right direction. But that is not, like John was saying, it's never sound logic behind why she opposes something. It's always just for the flavor of the day that the Democrats up top have been pushing her way.
It is very regurgitated. And, you know, again, I've stated this on the show. And the first time I said it in kind of a joking manner. But I remember in 2024 that the threat was China's going to buy up all the farmland. And we have to stop China from buying up all the farmland. And people are like, we need to write laws so China can't buy up the farmland. I'm like, that's going to be unconstitutional. Because if I own a piece of ground and I want to sell it to a German guy, you don't have the right to stop me. It's my property. Technically, I own it, but, you know, personal property taxes aside, if I don't pay it, now you own it. But whatever, okay? But now it's like they don't want the farmland to be sold to China, but yet we're going to get data centers in here on farmland, possibly wherever they can put them at. And it's like, we're going to beat China to the punch here. And it's like, okay, stop using China for all your reasoning, because it's freaking horrible. I hate it. Do I think China's a great country? No, that would be a retarded take. But do I see China as the main threat to Missourians? And no, I see the people who are going to that Capitol building 5 months out of the year, you know, passing omnibus bill after omnibus bill to the governor, you know, trying to make me feel like a loony because I don't back the things that you back. Now, I see those people as more of a threat to my liberty and to my property than some Chinese farm businessman or any other thing for that matter. I do not wake up in the morning, guys, and go, I have this feeling. I feel like China's going to do something bad today. I never feel that way.
It's
ever.
a boogeyman kind of phenomenon.
Yes.
It's a psyop. And, you know, I am for making sure the farmland is only being bought by Americans. I am for that. But they do kind of create like a boogeyman. And they use that for nefarious reasons.
Like they were talking about like this percentage of land in Missouri that was owned by Chinese entities. But like, you've never driven by those farms and just seen massive amounts of Chinese people plotting to do anything. They're just, it's usually a subsidiary owned company with still a Missouri farmer on the farm. It's just the person who owns the farm, the person they're leasing from, is from China, because people in China love investing in American, like a lot of the skyscrapers in New York are owned by Chinese firms and like foreign firms. They just they think of it as a good place to hold their money. It's not that like the Chinese government is coming to take the farmland, because they couldn't come and take it anyway. Like, if we wanted to, at the snap of a finger, we could just come and be like, okay, that deed's void. The government owns that now. Anytime we wanted. There's no like armed force of China in Missouri to stop us from taking it back in the first place. It's just business is all it is. So I don't know. I think
there's that data center in, I think it was Springfield, that was approved, and that was owned by a company based in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is controlled by China. So isn't it ironic that they're bringing the data centers here? And Tim Jones is like, what about China getting all these data centers? Well, they're trying to buy up our farmland here, and they're trying to build the data centers here. So,
well, and all of the companies that are using these data centers are all using H-1B visas to hire their workers to work on all of the important, high-paying.
And we need to ban that, by the way. We need to get rid of H-1B visas. It's it's terrible.
I will just say this, guys. Like, if it's a nice day, it's like 65, 70 degrees. It's not humid. It's a nice day. And I'm driving with my windows down. Maybe I'm just driving some back roads or something. I've never driven past a farm and heard a gong play or a so I'm like, what is all the hype about? What are you all freaking out about right now? And and that's the thing, dude, but it works on people. I see people that are really big in the liberty movement. And when you talk about Chinese-owned farmland, dude, they lose their mind. I'm like, you're doing so good. Don't let this one thing scare you so much that you start buying into unconstitutional laws and the government trying to say, well, these people can own property, but these people can't. Like, no, let's not go there, because it never ends well. You give them an inch, they'll take the next 10 miles. Do not give the government that power to say, you can own it. That culture of people can't. This culture of no, because in the long run, no one will own it. The government will own it all, because you've already set a precedent there. It's like, come on, just calm down. Again, you're not going to take a rural drive one day and be like, what's with all the rice fields? Like, that's not going to happen. Like, so just chill out a little bit. Stop freaking out about every time. But again, to your point, Jake, the psyop, the boogeyman, it's like, okay, I mean, can you blame the government, though? It works so well. And they're really good at two things: creating a false enemy or getting the people to fight each other. So to not pay attention as the government continually steals more and more from them.
Either make them afraid or make them angry, or both. Yeah.
Yeah, it works really well, and it hasn't stopped working. So, yeah, if I'm them and I'm sick and I've lost my soul to power, I'm going to be like, this is working slick. Why do I need to change it up and like do something different? Like, I've got the battle lines drawn, and these idiots are firing shots at each other, and I'm just sitting here like, oh, yeah, another check from a lobbyist? Cool, I'll take that. So, I don't know. It's disappointing. Here's the funny thing. Even people like Jimmy Dore, who are proclaimed progressives, he's a comedian. I do listen to his show because he's got some good info. I don't always agree with everything he thinks, but he's had some interesting guests and some interesting info. But even him, as a progressive, goes, dude, these people want you to see your neighbor as an enemy so they can keep taking things from you. And I'm like, yeah, he's exactly right. They want us fighting with our neighbors and fighting with people in a different ideology and just battling, going head to head, day in and day out especially around election cycles. And they're just taking another sliver of your liberty and just chucking it out the window. And it's like, even a progressive who thinks Medicare for all is a good thing, which makes me want to throw up on my shoes, at least he's got that down. And he understands that the Bernies Sanders and the AOCs are not who they purport to be. So it's like, well, at least he's on the right track. And maybe one day somebody just shows him some stuff and he goes, oh, Jesus, I used to think Medicare for all was cool. And that's the type of people I'd rather talk to, where you can kind of like meet them at a halfway point and then give them your side and show them some facts. And sometimes you can pull those people just a little bit farther away from being a full-on rhino or being a loony lefty, and you can be more of a centrist where you're like, yeah, I just want to be left alone and keep more of my money, and not some weirdo telling me what I have to do all the time.
I found is that I find some common ground with liberals on the data centers, the flock cameras. They are really against the flock cameras. If you didn't know that, did you guys know that? They are really against the flock cameras. I'm amazed like how they are against the flock cameras, and I would say like health, like Maha, for example. I find some common ground on you know, like all the garbage in our food supply and water supply and everything, and glyphosate. I find some common ground with liberals on those issues, and it's interesting. So
yeah, and that's our winning battleground, is just having those civilized if you can, civilized conversations. Keep throwing them tidbits of information. And I mean, I've seen it. You see these people on YouTube, you've seen them where they were just a dyed-in-the-wool whatever, and then they finally decide to like stand still, listen, look at the results, and go, boy, this is not what that guy was saying 6 months ago when he won his campaign. Like, this is way off. And it finally dawns on. I get it. I don't know about you two. I had to come to a hard stop, take a look in the mirror, figured out that I've been lied to for years, and I bought it all. And it was not the easiest thing for me to swallow and go, I'm an idiot and I need to rethink my life. And that's not most people. A lot of people can't do that. And it's like, you can't change that. They have to do it themselves. You just hope that we don't have to get to a point where it's so horrible and then they snap out of it, because by that time it's too late.
Yeah,
and you're not.
I've done the same thing, you know, and I've supported politicians, and now I'm like, why did I ever support that person? It's just because I thought they were different, and everything they were telling me, I thought they were genuine, and they didn't turn out to be who they said they were. And I'd be like, okay, I was wrong. How do I not make that mistake again?
Brandon, any parting thoughts before we end the show?
Yeah, a couple questions. Just really quick. So you're a big fan of Bill Eigel, and a couple of things that I've seen from his campaign is he wants to eliminate the property tax.
Personal property tax. Yeah.
And so what's kind of like his vision for like funding what those things get funded with?
Yeah, so I don't have access to his entire platform. Like he does. Having worked for him when he was running for governor, I know he has a list of things like what he would cut in like state government, and he has a list of things he wants to cut in local government. They actually just had a debate here, like when we just hopped on. They were just ending, but something they want to end for sure here that he wants to do is that they have this family arena here in St. Charles, and Ellman, our current county executive, he's been there since I was 6 years old. He's a dinosaur, but he's put in like millions, tens of millions of dollars into this family arena. And when he gets in there, when Eigel gets in there, he's going to cut that, and he's going to cut all sorts of waste so we can eliminate personal property tax. Because there's so much waste everywhere. And he said he's counted at least 40 to 50 million in waste that he's going to eliminate. Nothing like essential services or anything, but waste. And I know he's got a plan for sure.
So you think his plan, he's just going to find, honestly, that is a little bit refreshing to hear, that his plan is not to fund it with like a sales tax or anything else. His plan is to find waste and cut spending. So honestly, like whether or not he can achieve that, yet to be seen, but at least the rhetoric is there. I'll say that. another thing was he was talking about zoning and apartment complexes. And then I saw that Steve Ellman had replied to something he'd posted and said that the city of St. Charles, specifically the building that he was in front of when he was talking about how there are too many apartment complexes in St. Charles. Does he plan on like using the county authority to kind of adjust the zoning laws to make it where apartment complexes have like to meet different criterias for building, or what's his plan? What was the overarching message there?
Yeah, so with the apartment complexes, so again, there's a local municipality issue, like with like St. Peter's and O'Fallon and Welland Spring and all of those local municipalities. They're the ones that are really approving the apartment complexes big time. Like St. Peter's, I saw a figure today, and they have approved 2,800 units, 2,800 something units. It's insane, and the county has approved one or two at least. But I think what he's trying to do is like what I'm trying to do with the flock camera thing. If we can ban it on the county level, then it'll put some downward pressure on these local municipalities. Like, hey, you know, we don't want these flock cameras. We don't want these apartment complexes. I personally think, you know, these apartment complexes, if you are fine, sure, there's a place for them, but it kind of turns into like when you look at the Soviet Union, for example, or China, they build these massive skyscrapers of apartments, and that's kind of socialist. And so I think we should put a moratorium, or even a ban on apartment complexes for a while. So
like it's not you're not just necessarily worried about like the subsidies or like tax abatements. You think that like there should be you think there should be a moratorium on building.
It is over the top. We have too many people here. It is putting too many people, the population density, in one place. The roads can't handle it. The infrastructure can't handle it. I think we have to put a pause on it. Even if you think like that maybe it's government overstepping, we have, like, St. Charles is so bad. It's so like almost impossible driving from point A to B, especially during like rush hour. Like I don't want to see my county turn into St. Louis. St. Louis is terrible. And if it is going that route, it's almost basically there and if this continues, if we don't get Eigel in, I'm moving out. I'm gonna go somewhere rural.
I mean, trust me, I live in O'Fallon, so like I understand with the traffic on 70 and 64 and all that, but you don't think this also is like one step towards helping affordability for housing? Like, it's just building more housing is like one way to, you know.
I agree we should build some more homes, but apartment complexes, again, I feel like that plays into the 2030 agenda. They want us to rent everything. They want us to rent your car. They want you to rent, you know, housing. And I'm not for renting rentals. I'm more for owning property, that as a small government pro individual liberty person.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, now to me, if you want less apartments and more houses, then to me, the first logical step is better start deregulating like mad. Because, you know, unfortunately, you see this in big cities where you have rent control or you're only allowed to build these specific structures. You end up with shortages. And then people are like, I can't even find a place, or I can't build it, or somebody wants to build rental homes and they're like, well, sorry, you've made it too expensive for me to do it here. And we see that in, like, New York City is a prime example. The rent controls are horrible. And then they're like, nobody wants to build rental properties. Yeah, because
I'm
I
against
can't get the money
controls,
back
absolutely.
out. Yeah, I can't get the money back out of the property I invested in.
Yeah, my perspective on this is that I agree government should stay out of things, regulating things, but at the same time, if things are getting so bad, like here in St. Charles with the apartment complexes, it is getting insane with all these, and there needs something the government has to do something about it. And I think it is the area where they can step in and say, no, you know, we need to put a pause on this for at least for a while. Maybe not like a forever ban on apartment complexes. Maybe in the future you might need some new ones, but right now we need to put a pause on it. And I think that in that area, the government does need to step in and put the interests of the citizens first.
All right. Well, Jake, you started a new podcast, correct?
Yes. So it's the Missouri First podcast, and I'm just getting off the ground. I interviewed Mike Moon and I put that up. about the live video of the Senate bill, why that went down. And just recently, I went on the Rob Carter show and trying to get that uploaded too. And I also went on. Scott Fawn actually interviewed me as well in his truck, and I'm waiting for that to come out. So yeah.
Right on. Well, Jake, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Appreciate your time and your input on all this. And I do appreciate your fight to get those flock cameras banned in St. Charles. And, you know, I hope that it's successful and that it's something that people can build on in other communities and get these things knocked out of here. Because I think if you didn't have all these cameras up, yeah, everything you own digital can track you, but it sure would be nice if they couldn't track you as you just drove your car from one point to another. All right, folks, that's going to do it for tonight's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Don't forget, I will be out next week, so no show next Tuesday, but please, please, please come back here Thursday night this week at 6:30 p.m. And Nate Thurston from Good Morning Liberty, that podcast, will be joining us, and that's going to be a good time as well. And if you've never checked out that podcast, for the love of God, please do so. But with that being said, we'll see you right back here Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. for another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report.